and praised his attempts to keep Arizona safe. Let's talk to James Norton. He's in Washington. He's a Republican strategist and a former senior official at the Department of Homeland Security. James, good afternoon. Thanks a lot for talking to us. Here's a man who detained hundreds of undocumented immigrants in a tent city, a jail that he himself called a concentration camp. He made them live outside, have 2 meals a day, wear pink underwear. He introduced a voluntary female chain gang. Is this the type of person that President Trump should be A, pardoning, and B, tweeting about being an American patriot?
Well, I think it's important up front to note that, Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution grants the President of the United States the authority to pardon without any other issues at all. He has that sole authority. And so, we've seen pardons from other presidents. Bill Clinton had a notable pardon of Mark Rich, who, was not a very popular pardon. President Bush commuted the sentence of Scooter Libby, and, President Obama had many pardons himself. And so it's not an unusual step for a president to pardon somebody. However, Sheriff Arpaio certainly is a lightning rod when it comes to politics. And, immigration itself is an issue that's completely dividing this country. And so it has gotten a lot of people up in arms in terms of this pardon. Absolutely.
James, you're a Republican strategist. If you were in the White House and you were asked by the president, do you think this is a good move, what would you have told him?
I think that, again, the bigger issue here is that immigration and immigration reform continues to be stalled. It's been stalled since 1986. So we're looking at decades of presidents who have yet to actually achieve anything. I'd probably tell him to look to President Bush, who was the last president to really put his presidency on line to, try to have some sort of immigration reform and try to bring this country together. The president's talked about trying to bring the country together. So I think larger than pardoning Sheriff Arpaio, trying to use his presidency in his bully pulpit to actually make the deal he would make when he was campaigning. I mean, that was one of his big things, that he could reach across aisles and that he was more pragmatic than he was, somebody who was focused on issues. And so I think to this point, he hasn't really done that. And so I think, that's the opportunity or that he has as president to try to do those things. So I think that's really what he needs to try to focus on, or what I would recommend to him to try to do.
Well, let's talk about bringing the country together, reaching across the aisle. The American Civil Liberties Union, they've come out and said that this is a signal that the White House supports racism and bigotry. Do you think that's a valid point they're making there?
I think there's definitely some challenges for the president, when it comes to reaching out and people who, haven't traditionally supported him, in his campaign. And I think, the Sheriff Arpaio, pardon certainly, doubles down for people that are opposed to President Trump and things that he's, campaigned on and campaign promises. And so I think it really is going to be incumbent on him to try to find other ways to reach out and to try to find some accomplishments. You can't just continue to throw lightning rods, and you gotta transfer from, kind of campaign mode into governing mode. And, we've seen snippets of that. We did get, Gorsuch as the Supreme Court nominee, confirmed, which was a big deal to a lot of conservatives. However, we haven't really seen anything else at this point. So I think that's going to be the challenge for him, to try to do that. Obviously, the White House is undergoing a lot of staff changes in the last couple of months. And, given his style, I don't think that's a big surprise. It's obviously not a very traditional thing for a White House to see so much staff turnover in less than a year. But, I think this is just the kind of the new normal in terms of how he's operating and running his presidency. Let's
talk about staff turnover, James, because it seems every week they have new members of staff in and out the door of the White House. Sebastian Gorka now, the senior advisor. Do you think he was pushed or was he shoved? Excuse me. Did he go of his own free will or was he pushed?
Well, I mean, there's House intrigue when it comes to, senior staffers of the White House, probably more so than we've ever seen before. Obviously, there was some infighting, continues to be some infighting in terms of the direction of the presidency, and I think that, nationalism, globalism, and, even immigration to some respect continues to be an issue debated amongst the White House. So, it's possible that, he wasn't necessarily getting along with other staff. I don't know for sure, but I think with every exit, there's going to be an entry as well. And so I think it'll be interesting to see who then comes in to replace him. There was obviously a lot made about General Kelly coming in and trying to establish some discipline within the White House. And I think that was a good move for the president to bring somebody who had more traditional government experience, especially when you're dealing with all of these national security crises like North Korea, issues with the Russians and other governments and terrorism. And so I think that if the president, again, does want to see some change in his own administration, bringing in some people that do have a little bit more experience in terms of governing and getting things done would be important, and getting beyond some of these kind of people that became lightning rods in the administration.
Okay, James, thanks a lot for chatting to us.